I've reviewed every single arc on Berserk. Some were favorable reviews and others not so much. Please read the name of my channel again. I don't always enjoy talking about things I dislike, but when I do, it's because I'm too disappointed with something that could have worked better, like the Rings of Power. Today we're here to talk about Rainbows and Sunshine, about Berserk, about what I think is the best part of the narrative. The way Miura uses light and darkness, both visually and symbolically, stood out to me as a reader, influencing other great works such as Dark Souls and even Elden Ring. There is no doubt there is a dichotomy of light and darkness, with the existence of demons and other spirits. We hinted at that this dichotomy has always existed in this world, punishing only the innocent, the light. This is also a theme that has been around in stories for forever, and it is not a original or new trope, but its flavor changes when it's combined with light is not good and dark is not evil. We can just refer to these tropes as looks can be deceiving. Griffith has long blonde hair and the typical features of a beautiful man and woman, even after he turns into a demon. How did he turn into a demon? By sacrificing his comrades that helped him, believed in him, and ultimately looked up to him. This man also hard-worded his close right hand on a whim after becoming a demon. He looks like the Enchanted Prince, but he is a despicable villain. The light is not always a bringer of hope and goodness. It can be just as vicious as the dark, or worse. This trope usually depicts like beautiful villains dressed in white, and usually there's religious symbols around them. Griffith is worshipped by one of the religions in Berserk as the Hawk of Light, something prophesied for ages before he even turned into a demon. People think his powers to talk to the dead or having defeated Ganeshka were all miracles. On the other hand, Guts has a rugged look. Black hair, dark clothes, and disposition. Guts is no leader on account of his charisma, but for his berserker way of fighting. Although he looks to be of the dark, we know that he acts stoic because he had a complicated childhood, to say the least. He has reasons to act stoic and unattached to those around him. He is not a hero, but an anti-hero, since he also does bad things for the sake of his revenge. Guts has also neglected those he loves to end Griffith. Despite all this, the things he does do serve the good side, the light. One less apostle in the world? Why, yes, please, and thank you. His darkness is not evil despite not being fully good. Opposite to Griffith, the Holy Chain Knights also treat him as a threat to the world of men, instead of investigating the incidents that involved Guts. They arrest him wrongfully thinking he is evil. Of course, the Holy Chain Knights are not the only ones who mistreat Guts. In the Lost Children arc, Guts is shunned by the villagers, for example, even though he has rid them of Rosine and saved them from the demon's attack. The simple duality of light and darkness is complemented by the "you should not judge a book by its cover." These tropes alone are interesting to explore, but one cannot explore light is evil and dark is good without exploring the human complexity of the main characters. I think today morally grey characters are not new and fresh, but when Miura did write Berserk, it was like, I don't know, in the 90s, it was fresh, and especially in manga. Their complexity alone makes for one of the strongest strengths in Berserk. Griffith might be evil, there is no doubt about it, but let's back up a bit before he went cray-cray. What drives Griffith? Griffith's backstory is no less sad than Casca's. Berserk's world is unforgiving to all. Griffith seemed to live in the streets, and we know he wanted a better future for himself, and those who followed him as consequence. He saved Casca from getting R-worded, although that's not relevant considering the future. And it's implied he saved others for them to follow him. Although he manipulated them, he also gave them a choice to do so. His ambition for a better world and a better standing was what drove him to madness. Ambition itself is not a bad thing, but what Griffith was willing to do to get to where he wanted was what made them evil. And our wording. Of course, every vile action of his was veiled by a righteous intent, since his nature always revolved around what was best for him. Griffith is a narcissistic character, making his charisma the most dangerous weapon he could wield, for he uses it to put others under service, to chase his ambition. Therein lies his weakness. Because he is so narcissistic, he didn't even realize he grew to love those around him, especially Casca and Guts. When he realizes that he sees Guts as a friend, that he loves him, sure, a friend, it is too late. When he realizes that he too is human, no better than everyone else, it is too late. That was what drove him to spend the night with Charlotte, thus leading to his downfall. Even after the eclipse, the atrocities he committed, Griffith's love for both Casca and Guts remains as I see it. It is manifested when he visits them to make sure he doesn't feel anything. It is manifested by being unwilling to kill Guts, even though he could do it easily. Griffith is a character whose morality sways more on the dark side, but his morality is complex still. While being king of Falconia, he makes sure the people live in peace, keeping the demons happy as well. He still inspires those around him to follow. However, he was willing to kill his family for Falconia to come true. He's a very compelling and interesting villain, because he's flawed and willing to do anything to achieve his goals, yet still loves Casca and Guts and tries to keep the peace on Earth among demons and humans. He's kind of effed up. Guts is the character who is mostly grey, sometimes swaying on the black side, for he's blinded by revenge most times. A dark violent side also haunts Guts several times after the eclipse, which blinds him from distinguishing friend from foe, like the time when he assaulted Casca or neglected to save her because he thought he needed to kill the apostle in front of him. In a way, Guts acts similarly to Griffith. Their intentions may have a positive outcome somewhere in the middle of their actions, but they are acting for themselves, and themselves alone. The crucial difference between them is that Guts doesn't let his ambition override his loved ones, and eventually comes around, but that's because Guts doesn't act as calculating as Griffith, letting his raw emotions drive him irrationally instead. From this trio, Casca is the one that sways more on the light side of morality. She's been a leader ever since Griffith saved her from a miserable life. She found worth in serving Griffith, a purpose, which is why she is so torn before the eclipse. How can she choose between her lover, who she spent like most years of their lives bickering with each other, and the person who saved her, who she loves secretly and admires deeply? Casca feels such a sense of duty that she must have thought she shouldn't abandon Griffith at his worst, that he needed her more than ever. Since she's the character who's more of a goodie than anyone else, it's incredibly hurtful to see her hang on to the leadership of the Band of the Hawk, while she doesn't have any support from Griffith and Guts, the people who she leaned on the most as they did with her. Her depression and unaliving thoughts are completely understandable, especially when Guts arrives. Her pain grows stronger after seeing what they did to Griffith in prison. The man she looked up to is no more. He can't walk or pick up a sword. He can't even talk. It is here we realize that Griffith without his ambition means that the Band of the Hawk members are nothing too. It is all the more tragic when his recovery and transformation to a demon means the Band of the Hawk's death. They tried so hard to save him, only for Griffith to sacrifice them. Casca had been so strong by hanging on by a thread, and been through so much in life with the Band of the Hawk that it is no wonder that her mind breaks, especially after the R-word scenes. This would be a scar that would mark her relationship with Guts. Even she can't see him without suffering as she did during the eclipse. There is no denying that Berserk's world has brought pain to all of these characters, even the villain. But pain is pain. They were all seen as sexual objects, mistreated and betrayed by those they trusted. What really needs to be analyzed is how they reacted to the violent events that shaped them, which is also what separates every character from Griffith. Considering the world of manga, there aren't that many works that touch upon trauma and what it can do to someone. Our beloved trio has been through a lot of traumatic events, even Griffith, but trauma is treated respectfully, not as an obstacle for the characters to overcome. Guts' journey is the one we accompany closer than the others. He was born to a mother who died after giving birth, yet he was found by someone who wanted to be a mother. Amid the mercenaries who he grew up with, Guts was seen as a bad omen, which affected the child's confidence. Then he also lost his adoptive mother and was left with Gambino, a man who sold him to another. This first betrayal was one he could accept. Although he killed the man who assaulted him, Guts must have hurt when he accidentally killed Gambino, a father figure to him. For years he found solace in reckless violence because he had no esteem for his own life. Stoic characters are dated, be them men or women, but Guts has a reason to be stoic. His whole life has been a fest, so he's not willing to care for or trust other people. It all changed when he found the Band of the Hawk. In the band he found a family that he never sought but needed. Although he remained guarded, Guts let himself make friends. Sexually speaking, he also is never shown to act on his attraction for others. I think he feels attracted to Griffith and Casca, but obviously the trauma that was inflicted upon him as a child, he doesn't see the whole experience as a good one. When he hears Griffith say he doesn't have friends, his world shatters, and he must seek his own path, realizing he's been living through Griffith's ambition instead of having goals of his own. His ultimate moment of fragility is when he lays with Casca. It's not only a scene, but it's a scene where they are letting each other know how vulnerable they truly are. They're letting each other know about the wounds that have been inflicted upon them. Wounds that they never told anyone about until that moment. It's no wonder he becomes a more stoic character again after the eclipse, seeking vengeance for all the pain Griffith caused him, for taking what was so hard to build, a family. He softens again when characters like Serpico, Farnese, Isidro and Shirka join his quest, which Puck paved the way for. Casca is also branded by trauma. She has always been a warrior, even though she didn't know how to use a sword in the beginning. Her psychological wounds come from being in control of herself, of serving Griffith as best she can. Griffith's manipulation is the strongest in her, given she even obeys the order to lay naked with Guts when he's wounded, and she already doesn't like him. Griffith was the one who gave her back control of her own life by giving her a sword. She worshipped and loved him, and she did her best to repay a debt. When Griffith is captured and for the first time she finds herself without the people she relied on, Casca falls into depression. Guts is gone, but more importantly, everything fell apart when he was gone. Griffith thought going to Charlotte was a good idea, which got the Band of the Hawk betrayed by the king. When he comes back, it's like she has permission to rest from the responsibilities placed on her. When the eclipse happens, we must understand that she's already a broken woman. Thus, she loses her consciousness. Griffith himself is traumatized because he's done everything that he can to achieve his ambition. His ambition rose above self-preservation. Griffith sold his body to achieve his goals, which he's done willingly, but it has to leave a mark on someone, and beyond that, we don't know how much he's done to achieve what he wants. His own sense of superiority has also blinded him to the fact that he cherishes the people in the band. When Guts leaves, he seeks comfort and control in laying with Charlotte, who he intended to marry anyways to be king. Failing to see himself as a human being with weaknesses was ironically what made his downfall possible. A broken man, Griffith is naturally curious when the eclipse starts, since the demons promise him that he has a sort of ascension where he'll revert to his glory days. I'm not sure if Griffith truly wanted to kill off every single surviving member of the Band of the Hawk, although I'm pretty sure he wanted to be healed and hold a sword once more. Trauma is always present with Hawk characters, whether they like it or not, as it should be. But trauma is not an obstacle to overcome, but a scar they shall always have, dictating their actions and shaping them as they are. Depending on Berserk's ending, I feel like these three elements in the narrative are going to be the points that will make it either a masterpiece or not. I feel like these are the strongest elements, in my humble opinion. What about you? What do you think? Leave a comment down below to let me know, and I'll see you next time. Bye.